and the assignments. I was laid off. Never really knew exactly where I wanted to land or what I wanted to do after the layoff, but I just kept saying, I'm just going to get a job. I spent 2 years kind of figuring it out. That's a long time to figure it out. Welcome to day 12 of the 12 days of money. We have reached the end of this series where I have taught you financial tools, tips, tricks, and strategies to enter 2025 a financial success. And you have waited for this announcement that I've been teasing for the last couple of days. But we're going to be talking about how to land a new job in this very, very, very difficult job market. And so I'm going to give a little bit of backup with some history as always. So I was a New York City high school English teacher for 11 years, and I pivoted from teaching into the tech industry, specifically in marketing in the tech industry, specifically marketing in the fintech industry, right? That's how hyper super specific that I got. And that is going to be important when we start talking about the steps on how to land a new job, especially if you're from a non-traditional background, especially if you're pivoting into something where you may not have the exact experience, but you know that you can still do a really great job. So after I pivoted into marketing, into fintech, I worked in the brand and content side, and I was laid off. A documented, very well documented procedure process, will I say. And you can catch those videos right up here where I talk about how I felt after the layoff, how I felt 3 months after the layoff, 6 months after the layoff, and a year after the layoff. And essentially, I spent 2 years kind of figuring it out. That's a long time to figure it out. But I have been so fortunate and so thankful to be a full-time entrepreneur, which was something that I absolutely wanted to try. I was talking about full-time entrepreneurship since 2017 with my therapist, 2016, 2017, where I just was like, I need to get out of teaching and I want to just be a full-time entrepreneur. I just want to run Millennial in debt. And I did not know what I was getting myself into. I did not know what full-time entrepreneurship was like. I didn't know the ins and outs. I knew how important health insurance was to me. I've known that since I was very young, especially living in this country. I knew how important health insurance was to me. But everything else, I was just like, I'm just going to figure it out. And it is hard. It is so hard. And so I never really knew exactly where I wanted to land or what I wanted to do after the layoff. But I just kept saying, I'm just going to get a job because I like a steady check and it'll help me run Millennial a lot better, a lot easier. I've done it before as an educator. I've done it before in marketing. So I'm just going to do that. But I was so successful, which what a problem to have. I was so successful as just the full-time entrepreneur and just working for myself in Millennial that I didn't really put my all or put much energy into finding a new job. I was just like, I have enough financial security and I am bringing in enough revenue where I can support myself and I will be fine. Maybe I'll send out an application here or there, but I won't really go super hard. And then 2024 came, and 2024 was very difficult for many reasons that I won't go too deeply into, but it was just very difficult for many personal, professional, business reasons. And around August, I was just like, maybe I think I want to get a full-time job for real, because it just felt like the right step to do. And so I got a little more serious and a little more focused on landing a job. And so this job market in 2024 is not the same job market that I navigated in 2021. And I think I had a lot of imposter syndrome, I think, because 2020, the pandemic happened, and then we had essentially what they call the Great Resignation, where everyone was just like quitting their jobs and landing new jobs and everybody was working in tech. And then 2022, 2023 happened with a ton of layoffs, especially in tech. And I was just like, whoa. And people weren't like running to hand me a job. And the job applications that I did send out and the interviews I did have, I didn't, land the job. So I was just like, maybe I'm like a one-hit wonder. Maybe I'm an imposter. Maybe I don't have the skills that I thought I had, or maybe I don't know how to navigate this job market like I thought I did. But the honest truth was, from 2023 all the way to August 2024, I wasn't really doing what was necessary. I really wasn't following my own advice or listening to my own advice on how to essentially navigate this job market, which is a lot different. And so the first thing, if you are looking to land a new job or pivot into a new job, you have have to focus or hyper focus on roles or specific roles that you're applying for, and you need to adjust your resume to fit the hyper specificity of that role. And I thought it was all cute, just sending out like a generalized, but essentially like specific to a certain point, but not as specific as I'm talking. I'm talking using the right verbiage, using the skills that align, mentioning all the things that I've done that align with the role, and not just like, oh yeah, they'll know that I have a kind of understanding. They're not going to know anything. They don't know me. And so that was my bad. And when I mentioned that I was in marketing, I was in tech, I was in brand content, I had to get that specific. And so I started applying a lot more to other fintech jobs. Even though I kind of wanted to stay out of fintech because I felt like, oh, fintech is so volatile right now and who knows what's going to happen in the future in fintech. And I was just like, I want to go into something else. And I just couldn't adjust my resume the right way. And that's when I was like, maybe I'm not qualified for these roles. And so in the past, especially in 2021, you had a lot more soft skills, or people who were open to a lot more soft skills, because the market just wasn't as competitive. The market is hella competitive now, and it's so important that you are applying to jobs that you are actually qualified for, because there are so many people applying for those jobs. It's not going to be a soft skill focus anymore, and that's unfortunate. Unless the role is literally only asking for soft skills, you are probably not going to get called in for that role if you don't meet a good amount of the requirements. Because in 2021, for one role, you might have had maybe 10 people applying, 15 people applying, or we had like 95% of the roles being offered were remote. In 2024, with all these return to office orders, 2025 coming, all these return to office orders, it is so competitive, and there are hundreds, if not thousands, of people applying for one role, especially if it's remote. So I do suggest, which I also had to be honest with myself, I do suggest kind of opening up what you're looking for so that you can get more eyes on your resume, so that you can have more opportunities. Yes, I started looking into hybrid roles. I even started looking into on-site roles because I wanted to land a role, a specific type of role, and I had this hyper focus, like this is what I want. And it was so competitive. And because I have such a non-traditional background, it can be really difficult with people who have 10 years of traditional background, 15 years of traditional background, and we're all going for those senior level roles. So it really is important that the skills that you are applying with, or the skills that are on your resume and the experience you have, is what they're looking for. Where it's, as in 2021, I might have said, oh, if you meet like maybe 40%, 50%, it's just not happening anymore. It's not happening. It's unfortunate, but this is definitely an employer's market right now. It is no longer an employee's market. So my rule of thumb when I started applying and getting serious about applying was to look into roles that my experience aligned with like 80 to 90% of the hard and soft skills that they were looking for. And so if a role looked for 10 years of specific experience and I didn't have it, I didn't waste my time. Of course, there are Hail Mary throws where you're just like, this is the perfect role, I'm going to apply anyway. But you really got to steel yourself and prepare for the I'm sorry, but we're not moving forward with your application emails, because you will get plenty of them. The second thing that you really need to do, especially in this market, is you need to be organized. I started using Teal because I needed to know what roles I was applying for, which roles I was being called in to interview for, because that really gave me the key to apply for more roles like that, what roles I wasn't getting called in for, and also when to follow up. Following up and leaning into your network, we'll count that as the third tip for this difficult job market. You need to follow up and you need to lean into your network without shame. And I know sometimes that could be really difficult if you're shy, if you're introverted, and it's just like, I feel bad, I feel like a bother. This job market is not the market for feeling bad or feeling like a bother or feeling shy. I was reaching out to people on LinkedIn. I was reaching out to people in my network that were connected in some way, somehow, to specific companies that I was looking into, or specific companies that had roles that I was looking into or applying for, asking for referrals. There's no shame in this job market game right now. So definitely network. I also find that going to job fairs online was a really great way to get in front of recruiters and hiring managers, because that is really, without the network, you really need to figure out creative ways to get in front of the hiring manager and the recruiting manager to kind of break through that sea of the thousands of other people. Like, have you ever, I know LinkedIn just recently changed it, but going onto LinkedIn, seeing a job that was posted maybe 12 hours ago and seeing that it's been clicked over 1,000 times, even though it doesn't mean there was 1,000 people that applied, it's still so disheartening. Leading into my fourth step, I stopped applying for roles that was uploaded like 3 to 4 days ago. And that really narrows it down. So I wanted to be an early applicant. So setting those notifications where if a specific role goes up or a specific company posts a role, I want to be one of the people that applies in that first day. By day 3, I was just like, you know what? Potentially could not be worth it. I'm not saying that is the only way to do it, but I do suggest being an early applicant, especially if you are looking to start or if you're looking to land more interviews in the next few weeks. January and February are huge surge months for hiring, similar to September surge with September, October, but you need to do it strategically. So you can't just spray and pray. That's not going to work anymore. In 2021, maybe, but right now you need to be hyper-focused. You need to be connecting with your network. You need to be reaching out. You need to be following up, and you need to be an early applicant because it's just so many great people out there who have been laid off, so many great people out there looking for a new role that you have to stand out in any way possible. Another important factor in navigating this very difficult, very saturated job market is volume. And I know one of my favorite influencers in the career space, Maddie, she always says to think of it as a funnel. If you are only putting out 3 or 4 applications a week, you are not increasing the amount of volume or the opportunity for you to land in front of a hiring manager or a recruiter. You are showing up very minimally. So that bottom of funnel, the largest part of the pyramid, you want to make sure that you are applying to as many roles as possible that you are qualified for. Qualified for is the key. Whenever I work with clients, I always recommend applying for at least 25 jobs a week. And that might seem like quite a lot because it is. It is about 5 jobs a day. So being an early applicant, choosing 5 roles that you're an early applicant every single day and applying gives you more opportunity to get called into interviews than if you're just applying to 3 or 4 jobs a week and hoping that it all works out. Another major thing is really honing in on your story. So when you start getting interviews, you want to make sure that you are standing out in a way that aligns with what they're looking for, in a way that aligns with company fit. And that means practicing your story like you know it like the back of your hand. I really struggled with interviews this year, which is so interesting because I am a certified yapper and I feel like I know my story so well. But I know my story so well for social media, I would say. I know my story so well when speaking in a conversational manner to friends and family. But really honing in on my story in a way that highlighted my skills and showed my background during an interview that was maybe 30 minutes long needed some work. I needed to fine tune. I needed to practice. And I highly recommend doing the same. You may think you have your elevator pitch down, but your 2021 elevator pitch, your 2022 elevator pitch, especially if you're from a non-traditional background, is not going to cut it anymore. You need to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. You need to adjust it so that it is aligned with what people are looking for the role, and so that it stands out so that they want to call you in for the second interview or for the third interview or to give you the offer letter. And the last thing in this job market, and it is probably the most difficult and annoying, once I really got honed in on my interview skills and I got interviews almost every week. I was interviewing for a different role almost every week for the last 4 months. And I know that's a blessing because many people will apply for roles and just get back nothing or hear nothing. So I at least knew that the adjustments that I made on my resume worked. I knew that it was landing in front of the recruiters, it was landing in front of the hiring managers, and it worked. They wanted to speak to me. But when I adjusted my interview skills, I started landing in at the final rounds of interviews, which is a great place to be. And the assignments. I come from education where you have one interview and maybe a formal lesson in front of the administration, and then you would know whether you got the job or not, probably by the end of week. I went from that to multiple interviews. So in 2021, it was, yes, you're gonna meet with this person, you're gonna meet with this person, and then this person on the team, and this person. So 4 or 5 different rounds in an interview. To now, not only was it 4 to 5 rounds, but it was also a homework assignment. And many of those homework assignments, especially for me as a perfectionist, would take quite some time, especially in marketing and content. It would take so much time to do the strategy or create the assignment or do whatever it was, and then having to present it. And I think what really frustrated me the most was doing all of that work work and then not getting the offer. So making it all the way to the end, having it be between me and someone else and just not getting the offer. So that was super frustrating, but I think it helped me to kind of land where I landed now, because I had to create a portfolio. I think in creating a portfolio that helped people to, when I started interviewing later in November, December, that helped people to understand what I could do, understand what I've done, see the wide variety of campaigns that I have run or been a part of. And so the assignments got fewer. It became fewer assignments. They were still assignments though, became fewer. So if you are in a creative space, graphic design, maybe engineering, software development, you want to have a portfolio. You want to have a portfolio that speaks to what you've done, what you can do. And my portfolio took quite some time to create, but I am so proud of it. And it speaks so well to what I want to do in my career overall in marketing and content. And the marketing space is very saturated. It's probably one of the most saturated industries right now, especially in content, especially in social media, which these are kind of fairly new role. Content manager, not so much, but social media manager and social media like creator, these are fairly new roles in marketing, maybe in the last 10 years, 5 years more, honestly. And it's competitive. Everybody has some sort of social media experience, but putting together that portfolio, really honing in on my skill set in my interviews, and then really knocking it out of the park with the presentation of the assignment is what ultimately has helped me to land my next full-time role, which is, that's the announcement. I know it took you 20 minutes to get through this video to get that, but I'm so happy and thankful to have landed the role and all the things I've learned. And I truly feel like this experience in this job market has not only made me just thankful to kind of be out of it, but also to assist my clients better, to better understand what they're going through on a day-to-day and helping them restructure and navigate whatever it is that they're trying to land, especially in 2025. And so having experienced that, having experienced a non-traditional background, I think it really gives me a really great hands-on opportunity to help more people in the future, but also help myself. I had to humble myself to help myself. But that is really the best way to go about landing a new role in 2025 in this job market. All of these things really is a juggling act, and looking for a new job it's a full-time job in itself, but it is possible. It is doable, even if you have a non-traditional background, even if you have gaps in your resume, which I have a non-traditional background. I've had gaps in my resume. It is still possible. It is still doable as long as you continue. Do not give up, right? That is the motivational part. Just simply keep going no matter how difficult it gets, because the minute you stop applying is the minute that you no longer have those opportunities to land the roles that you deserve and that you can absolutely 100% do and get all the things that you want and need and deserve. And that is the end of our 12-part series, and I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you have subscribed. If you missed any videos, they are all linked in this playlist right here or somewhere over here. And I will catch you in 2025. We're gonna take a nice little breather from YouTube for a little bit, just a few weeks, and I'll catch you in the beginning of 2025 with all more money content, career development content, and I will see you in the next one.